Hey everyone, and welcome to 3 for 30, a surfcraft review where I will be reviewing 3 boards for 30 days. Ideally, we all want the perfect 3-board quiver that will work for any conditions our coastline provides. So in each episode, I'll be reviewing just that, a small board, mid board, and a long or big board. At the end, each board will be numerically rated using 6 different categories, which will give an overall score. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of 3 for 30. This is episode 7. 7. 4 all by myself and 3 with the homie. Thank you again for doing this.
Of course.
I got one hull of a tree.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I've been waiting to say that all day. All right, so this is a special one, man. Now you get to find out
Unveiling.
why you'll see me smile ear to ear, but I'm not doing anything. All right, so before we even ask you what you think of this, I'm going to go through the whole rundown. So this is a fine line GB. This board is actually got some years on it. I just recently acquired it. Really stoked on it personally. This is a 511 by 22 3/16 by 2.75. Nose width is 18.25. Tail width is 17 wide. Nose rocker is 3. Tail rocker is 1.75. Wide point is 8 inches above center. So wide point's here. Nose rocker starting right there. Tail rocker starting right there. Low entry S-deck style. This is a hull. This is about as hull as they get. Completely rolled. You can see it right all through here that it is rolled top to bottom. It does have a touch of hard edge, which actually you're gonna want. Not too knifey, but it's definitely a foiled 50-50. Again, S-deck. In general, what are your thoughts on this one?
I don't really have any thoughts. I'm still trying to compute what's going on here.
Yeah. That's okay.
This looks like it's going to be fun.
It's going to be cool, man. I really think you're going to enjoy it. I think that you're going to enjoy it in good waves. It's going to be terrible in bad waves. And so just keep that in mind. Also, don't take it out when it's huge. It's just going to beat the shit out of you.
Right. We might have to test that theory.
Yeah, I mean, we can, but we're going to go with these hydrophile little nubbies. I'm going to advise that you start off with these. Some people call them like training wheels, but it's okay. I like them with these little side bites, and then we're going to run the fin kind of like right a little bit behind where these two start.
Okay.
So we'll give it a shot. I think you're gonna dig it. I think you just have to like find the right waves. You've never ridden anything like this before.
No. And
this will be good because it'll just kind of teach you to just go with the flow, find different parts of the wave that maybe you've never been on. You're gonna ride this, and then I will show you guys what I'm riding as far as the mids. All right, on for the mid. Jive lifter. Really excited about this thing. This thing is gonna be awesome, or at least I really hope it is. I want to say first, thank you, Corey from Hydrophile, for letting me borrow this. He has been so stoked on this thing and just telling me about how much fun he's having on it. And I'm very happy that he let me take it for this time. But let's get to the board itself. So nose width, 15.75. Tail width, 16.2, right around here, right where that bump is, all right? nose rocker 4 inches, tail rocker 2.5. Wide point is 1 inch below center. All right, so wide point's here. Tail rockers starting here. Nose rocker is starting right here. Bottom has a chimed rail going from pretty much kind of like top to bottom. But what it does is it's wide here and then slowly gets narrower all the way out to where this bump is. Now, in between the chimes, we have a whole lot going on. Bottom contour is flat to single to an aggressive quad channel all the way out. Quad is going starting right around here and actually getting deeper as it gets towards the tail. I'm expecting a lot of lift and speed, but also hold from the fins, which these again are hydrophile fins. This is what Corey's been running. I'm gonna run the same thing. Futures. And then this little nub is going in the back. So it's got that kind of setup. Things should be really cool. Really excited about it. The cool thing about this is very kind of similar to the Trimcraft Haley pin, and from what I recently discovered, also the Reed bowls. I didn't realize it was so different than a V bowls. Air and water is just gonna move through this board real fast, and I think that's why it's called the lifter, because it's gonna lift. Anyway, stoked to try this. Up next is the longboard. All right, and for the longboard, this one is relatively local. Shaped in Long Island, this is Chopwood Surfboards by a guy named Paul. I've had this board for a little bit. You've probably seen it on my Instagram, but I really wanted to give this thing a good try. I've been so busy trying all these other boards, and then when I get personals for myself, I find myself riding these. And I want to give this board a good 30 days and really see what it can do. Let's get into it though. 9.6, 22.5 by 3 3/8. Nose width is 16.25, tail width is 16.25. Nose rocker 2.75, tail rocker 4.6. All right. Wide point is 12 inches below center. Wide point right here, tail rocker starting right here. Nose rocker starting right here. Roll tip to tail. So this is really something kind of more like what my Sam was. I think that was the first 3 for 30 dispense board, but exaggerated tail rocker for sure. And you can kind of see it, especially right now. So I really have to rely on the wave and the flip in the tail in order to get up here. The rails are pretty thick all the way through, obviously tapering off into the tail and nose, but still rolled all the way through, just like the Yi was, and no hard edge in the tail. Outline should work great for beach break conditions, and if it's a little windy, lacquered nose concave should work in my favor. The glassing is, I'm really psyched on the glassing. This board just in general is just classic outline. This is his take on a 60s style pig log or classic pig log. It's going to be kind of cool to get back onto something like this. As far as fins, I'm not 100% sure what to do. I'm definitely going to try this guy, the True Hands, the Aussie Pivot. I'm also going to try the 10-inch Nomad. but I'm wondering about maybe trying a few others that I'm gonna have to borrow from some friends. But anyway, we'll see what goes on with this. I'm gonna go surf all these things. Brandon's gonna go surf his little board. So I got a text message about 10 days into this. Let me just read it real quick. This is coming from my friend over here. Worst experience of my life. There's no way I can give a review on that thing. I can't even ride it. What happened?
It's pretty self-explanatory.
That's
just
okay.
what I said. I couldn't really ride it.
Okay.
You know? It was my first time ever on a hull.
Yeah.
So every sensation, every feeling, the paddling, it was all new to me.
Yeah.
Also, very foreign.
Totally. That's fine. So, and this is just to show you that this isn't for everybody,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, but what did you decide? You can go ahead and grab your board.
So on the flip note, we switched to what I had on hand, which is actually a custom of mine
Yep.
from Daveysky surfboards. This is a 5'3" keeper. It is what you would want to call a retro twin, but tweaked to a modern performance standard. So 5'3", it's got, I don't remember the dimensions on hand. Well,
Doesn't say it anyway.
it's on the front. It's on the front, covered in wax. But yeah, so 5'3", and is made specifically for me. You know, my weight, my size. You know, for me.
Cool.
And yeah, so 5'3" keeper.
Cool. So we'll look at some video of you surfing it, and then we'll see what you thought of it.
Cool.
guys, welcome back. So Brandon, why don't you tell us what you thought? So just in general, just give a quick little discussion about what you thought of the board.
Well, to be as unbiased as I possibly can be, I love this board, and maybe the reason for that is because it's made specifically for me. So if I'd had any issues with it, I would know, but I really don't. It's a 5'3" twin. It's got that curvy outline, that you would see in a fish. Probably a little curvier than most retro fishes, just because Davey was going with more performance in mind.
Okay.
You have the beveled rails here. I don't know if you can really see it, guys, but it's a beveled rail. A nice, more pulled in tail than usual. And yeah, this is as performance as you can get out of a twin, in my opinion.
Cool. So let's get right into categories. Maneuver.
Yeah.
What was your rating?
So in my maneuverability, we have a 9.
All right.
And here is why. Just like I said in the beginning, it's got that curvier outline, with that pulled in tail. So that will really allow you to surf more in the pocket, as well as, going down the line. And yeah, so with that being said, the maneuverability is great. Coupled with these Aircore modern keel fins.
Ooh.
So they're super light. Originally, the recommended fins were the performance glass modern keels. So they're a little stiffer, but the Aircore is definitely light the board up. They're super light. You can't really feel them.
Yeah.
So which is great. I want as less weight, as less drag as possible.
Totally.
And yeah, so maneuverability is a 9.
Cool. Well, obviously, I saw you. We didn't get a lot of footage. In general, we just had issues across the board, a little bit of technology, but also waves were awful. It was pretty bad for the past 30 days, unfortunately. We had these times where the forecast was supposed to be good to fair or fair to good. Actually, fair to good would make more sense, but it would be howling northwest.
Yeah.
So the day that I did get to see you really put this thing to the test was the big day. And I got to admit, maneuverability-wise, this thing looked like a shortboard, but it was cruising like a fish.
Right.
So that kind of goes into drive. What did you rate it as drive?
Drive, I rated a 7.
Okay.
And that is, that's basically above average. So the board picks up speed on its own. I felt like, with a twin, you don't have that middle fin. You don't have that middle fin for drag. The board really picks up speed on its own. Once you stand up, it's going, obviously. But another, 1 pump, 2 pumps, and you're zooming. The speed initiation from this board is automatic.
Totally.
Yeah, especially coupled with the fins as well.
It was insane. That day was big.
Yeah.
You can obviously see it. It was definitely way over your head.
Right.
And I know that, not to do a little play on words, but you probably felt maybe this thing was maybe not the best choice to take out that day.
No, I would not have taken this out, but I'm glad I did because I saw the true potential, not only in this board, but in twin fins.
Totally.
So, yeah.
Sick. Flow, where are we at?
Flow, I have an 8.
Okay.
This board really had smooth transitions. I felt like everything was just, the board was doing the work. From rail to rail, going into turns and also coming out of turns. I felt like there was never any lag, that might be in play with like surfing clean waves, but this board it had great flow, and yeah, it was really good.
Nice. Volume distribution, duck dive.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
The big 10.
Okay, really?
10.
Okay.
10, and here's why. Just
Because you could make it out that day with it?
Well, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
But I just feel like this board, the volume is distributed perfectly. That's why I gave it a 10. Coupled with these beveled rails, it almost feels like the board is hugging you while you're laying down. So I'm getting a little off track.
It's okay.
But
that's why this is like not, I don't have any like real sponsors, or else this would not fly. But that's my dog, everybody. His mom's away, so he's being a nightmare. Anyway.
As most kids would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, the beveled rails, it just feels good holding it. Going to duck dive, you have that. It's just a weird but good feeling. That you have the rails are getting thicker as you're moving to the middle, and it just felt good. Like it sinks into your hands, just sink into it, your chest sinks into it, and just the way the foam is just evened out throughout the whole board, I had to give it a 10.
Nice. That's I think the only other 10 you ever gave was the album Twinsman for paddling.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
So let's get into paddling.
So paddling, I have a 7, which isn't perfect, but it's also above average. And here's why. It's pretty much, it's slightly above average for a twin, but you still have to remember it's still a small board. I can't give paddling a 10 because you're still, in certain waves, if you're getting hucked over the ledge, I'm still scratching into waves. But as a con, but as a pro, the paddling with a wider, beaky nose, the paddling is really good. It didn't go too far forward with the width on the nose.
Yep.
As you can see, the tip of the nose is pretty pulled in up front. So paddling is a 7.
Cool. Last category, special moments.
Special moments. So on that big day, Friday, I was actually screaming towards this end section, and I knew if I would go vertical, I would probably die.
Yeah.
I think you were there for it.
Yeah.
And I opted not to, so I did a little check turn, like right under the lip, and rode off as this thing completely exploded in my face.
I know exactly what wave you're talking about.
And I was pretty happy I chose that option, and but also perplexed that even with that check turn, I kind of thought I was going to slide out because I was going pretty fast.
Same here.
So
yeah,
I gave that special moment a 7.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a pretty great moment for me because I didn't go vertical and try and come down 2 stories.
Yeah.
And I think I made the good choice.
Well, that day was from what I could see, was almost below sea level.
Yeah.
And
the tide was going out.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
So like I saw that turn and I was like, dude, like you just...
Where am I going?
Well, the board actually wrapped and took the face of the wave and just worked with it, where most boards would just nosedive. That's what I was surprised about.
Right.
So that was cool. I'm very happy that you took this board out. I know that you didn't want to. But now, like, we have some awesome footage on it.
Yeah.
So
and I definitely have a greater respect for the ceiling of twin fins, how big you can ride them in. And yeah, this board definitely gets you thinking.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I've surfed twin fins 5.2 in straight barrels, and they're great. You can just the fins will just slide right in there and just hold. And it's nice to have the extra volume up front for paddling.
Of course.
So cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's that. And now for the mid. All right. And mid, Jive Lifter 7.8. This is a fun board. Definitely way different, believe it or not, than what I've surfed recently. So let's kind of get into categories. So maneuver, I gave it an 8. So I was really surprised at how well it turned in the weaker waves. This is where it gets interesting. So in smaller, mushier waves, I felt that it almost cruised through, almost like a snowboard would cruise through powder. It was easy to make it back in. And little subtle changes in your toe and heel help this thing move. But here's where it got weird. So when it was in punchy beach break, like really fast and powerful waves, I had to be all the way at the back in order to make it turn. Even with bottom turns, I had one bottom turn where I was like in this area, and it just kind of just like slowly went up. And then the next wave, I had a bottom turn where I really laid more into my back foot, and I felt this thing really just go right up. And it had a lot of speed. So this is my theory. And I don't know that much about board design, but this is what I think is going on. So these channels in a smaller wave and something with less punch will lift, therefore make it easier to carve around. But when it gets bigger, these channels grip into the wave. I don't know if that's exactly true, but that's kind of what I felt. So that's kind of how maneuver went. I really felt that I really had to put a lot of weight on my back foot in order to get it to move in bigger waves. And in smaller waves, it's pretty easy. It felt almost, like kind of V-balls-ish, like in the aspect just because the wide point is a little below, but also it has all of this area here and it's more pulled in here. That's kind of what I felt, but I don't know. It was definitely fun, but it had that feeling. Anyway, let's get into trim. Trim 7.5. So in general, again, as I said, the outline, wide point back style. I'm not going to say the board that I would compare it to because it is a lot different when you start to get into trim. So this is what I found with this board. As far as trimming, you really almost had to be back underneath these channels, especially in small and big stuff. I had one wave where I went backside and then cross stepped to right around this area, and I could feel myself almost like bogging. So I really think that this board is generally focused to surf in almost underneath these channels. And maybe it's the waves that I'm surfing, and maybe if you're in a long lined up wave that can just go and go and go, it could feel completely different. But for the waves that I happen to surf this board in, that's what I felt, all right? Drive, I gave it an 8. So as I was kind of saying about this back foot maneuver, I also felt that the back foot is essential in drive as well. Now, I've surfed a lot of hulls and different boards similar to that where you're more driving off your front foot as you would snowboarding. Snowboarding regular, like packed powder. But with this, I felt I lost drive when I used my front foot. And what I mean is I had a couple turns where great turns, and then when I came back into the foam, I just felt the board just bog out. And again, I think that's just because of these channels right here. And it's not necessarily a bad thing to have the channels. I just think it might take me a little bit longer to get used to it. So that's drive. Volume distribution, duck dive. The foam's hidden really well. As we spoke before, just kind of explaining this whole board, we talked about how it has this chime, and obviously the nose is nice and pulled in. I will say, I still had a tough time duck diving it, because it does still have a lot of foam that's stopping right around here and then going, but this feels very full everywhere. So had a really tough time duck diving, which was surprising because when you look at a Haley pin, and not to, do a compare and contrast in that aspect, the Haley pin looks like it has just about maybe even more volume. And mine was a 7/8. I had no problem duck diving it. So I don't know what's up with this thing as far as duck diving. I don't know, maybe I'm out of shape. I don't know what's going on. As far as volume distribution, it definitely feels a lot smaller than it actually is when surfing it, which was nice. After surfing mid-style boards, wide point center or head, it was a little tough for me to get back into the wide point being back. But again, the lack of nose really gave a good swing weight, which was nice. And again, putting your feet all the way back here, definitely a completely different category. I even think the day that I had to surf this, it was pretty big. I even think I put my foot almost where the leash plug was, which I could feel it because that day, believe it or not, I had to wear a leash. Paddling, 8.5. And moved through the water very well in small stuff. If there was a little bit of texture or a little bit of chop, it just managed to paddle over it and not through it. I never had any issues, even on the bigger day that I took it out, where I did any sort of like a nosedive. It paddled quick. It paddled especially quick when you need to like try to get over a big set. Because again, I couldn't duck dive the thing. I just had to kind of like ditch it with a leash. But yeah, it paddled really well for what it is. And as they should, it's still technically a mid. I will say I was super stoked to take this board out on a pretty big day. It's probably like 6 to 8 foot. But we'll get into that with special moments. So special moments 8.5. Again, took this out big day, presenting, it was a very just fast beach break. The sand was all different. Everything had moved. So I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. But once I got out there, I felt super confident. And that's a special moment right there. I was able to paddle out dry. I was able to have no problem taking off on pretty decent size, 6 to 8 foot on a almost 8 foot board. That gets a little terrifying, especially in New Jersey. If you're somewhere else that has point breaks, that's more of a wall of water. Jersey is like beach break death barrels at times. And I actually pulled into what I thought was a barrel. I heard the noise. We all know it. But unfortunately, when I looked back at the video, I was about a foot off. But it felt really good in the barrel, or whatever that was. And that was my special moment. I mean, there's not a lot of times that I've said that I could get close to a barrel that size on a board this size. So all in all, really fun experience. Thank you, Corey, again for letting me borrow it. Can't wait to return this to you and get up and surf that spot you keep telling me about. All in all, final score, 7.9. And next up is the longboard. All right, and now on to the longboard. 9.6 chop wood. This is his pig style shape. Before I kind of get into review, I have to let you guys understand that this particular board I knew was not gonna really work in most of the conditions that I got, so I do apologize for the lack of footage, but this wasn't the first time that I rode this board, so I'm clearly going kind of off of memory from the summer and a little bit of surfs that have been more recent. So let's get into it. Noseride, 6.5, okay? I've been a little spoiled with concave, including the past 2 boards, so it was a little tougher to feel comfortable up there without the lift that you get from the concave, and there is lift that you get from the concave whether you like it or not. The lift that you do actually get is from the tail rocker, that quick little tail rocker that comes in, that's where you're getting all your lift. Has a very flat nose. So it was a little interesting to kind of get this board to feel comfortable nose riding, but here's the cool thing about a board without concave as far as nose riding. You never get really almost like pushed off the back of the wave, and you can also control it a lot better from the nose if you feel that you're nose riding and you're starting to go up off. You can kind of pivot your weight and get it so that way it goes back into the wave. So that is a plus about no nose concave. And I know that I recently discussed something on Instagram. If you haven't checked it out, feel free to check it out. But it's a lot of people discussing whether they like nose concave or don't like it. So again, noseride 6.5, maneuver 8. When you put such a narrow nose on a board like this and have most of the volume in this area, it really helps with the ability to turn it, whether it be quick little heel toe situations or big carvy turns. When I first kind of got this board, I was like, wow, this thing has really, really thick rails that goes all the way. I'm used to normally more of something that has much more pinched rails. And what I found was that these rails are a lot more forgiving, especially if you're doing a harder turn and then the wave or the water is just kind of going over the rail instead of stopping the rail. So definitely a big plus on something like this. Yeah, definitely better as far as swing weight. Yeah, it turned really well for its size and for its buoyancy in general. I mean, this is 9.6, but it is a smaller outline, but it still has a lot of buoyancy throughout the whole board. Trim, I gave it an 8, okay? These pig outlines were born out of trim. This particular one, because of its thicker rails, allowed to keep moving in a steady pace without distractions. I found that the sweet spot was in the middle. So obviously cross step to right around this area, and I felt a lot of speed, and I felt that it didn't have any issues or bogginess or anything getting to this point. Obviously, as you start to get up here, that's where the tail starts to engage, so it kind of slows it down. This is not a hull, this is a nose rider. A pig nose rider, a little different. All right, so volume distribution, I gave it an 8. When you take the overall dimensions, as I said before, it is a really big board, but since the volume goes all the way to the rail, again, it does feel really big. Very easy to prone paddle, which was kind of cool, or knee paddle. Just in general, again, you know, as I was talking about maneuverability, I really liked it how most of the volume was in this area, made it very easy to turn. And then for the quick pocket nose rides, doable up here. Paddling, I gave an 8.5. So I've been kind of into prone paddling for about a year and a half now. And because of the low nose rocker, and also just in general, the amount of volume that's going rail to rail, it really puts you out of the water. And when I do knee paddle it, I feel like I'm almost knee paddling like a prone style paddleboard because I am just digging and going quick. I like it that it's a little bit more pulled in, so you can really dig deep with it. It's a classic board. It felt really cool to surf something like this. And I do enjoy it a lot. But what it needs is a good lined up wave. All boards work better with good lined up waves, but this one kind of more, it needs to have that good lined up wave in order for it to work proper. That's going a little off subject, but anyway, last category, my favorite, special moments. I gave it an 8. It's good to try different things, especially with surfboards. I suppose in life in general, it's good to try different things, but in surfboards, it's really good to try different things. Again, I'm not really a fan of these full 50-50 rails, just because of my size. I'm about 140 pounds-ish or so this is a bulky board in a small package. As far as special moments, I had a longer wave late summer at a particular spot that happens to line up very well. And it was one of those waves that I just went all the way from the jetty, all the way to the middle of the beach and passed. And on that wave, I knew exactly what this thing was capable of doing. It turned great from the tail, and then it trimmed at this super fast speed, even so where I was in the flats and just going through sections and almost doing like that Mickey Dora thing where he puts his 2 feet right like this, and you can see him wiggling just like that. You can see the board wiggling. That happened. Unfortunately, it wasn't on video. And at the very end of the wave, I did a nice little quick 5 cheater section. A lot of fun. I can't say that I've had every single longboard I've ever surfed do something like that. So it was definitely cool to ride this board and have that happen. So that's that. Again, great board. I think it was really fun. I think it's really interesting to try stuff like this. And as the altogether scoring, 7.8. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Please subscribe if you haven't already on the YouTube channel. give a thumbs up, comment, ask questions. Let's get interactive, all that fun stuff. If you see me on the water, say what's up. If I don't know you, I try to be cool. I don't know, whatever. Anyway, just like every other episode, I'm going to end with a little knick-knack. So this is a fun, interesting little thing that I have. The person that helps me with all the editing, Wills, always has a plastic bag when he surfs. I thought that was kind of weird. And then I asked him what it was for, and he said, oh, well, I put this plastic bag on my foot, and then I put my wetsuit on, and the wetsuit just slips right in, or my foot just slips right into the wetsuit because there's zero friction. So I had to try it. And then I thought, there's gotta be a brand that's doing something like this. So I did a little research, and pretty quickly I found this guy. This is the Curve Slug. Curve is the brand. Slug is apparently this bag. And all you do is you just put your foot in there, and makes wetsuits go on real easy. It's kind of cool. So I thought that was interesting. It's my new Volt 5mm. Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. I have this odd feeling it's going to be a cold winter. And you guys kept me warm last year. Looking forward to this year, too. Anyway, just like every single other episode, I want to say thank you again. And stay safe, be nice, and surf soon. Peace, guys.